Morning, everyone. I hope you guys had a great week, a great weekend. It's another new day. We are at the summit now of the mountain called Munster. Along the way, we have been stumbling. Along the way, we have gotten tired. Along the way, we have gotten cold. You see, the journey to up the mountain is not easy. So we are here today at the summit saying that we have been building up for this moment, starting all the way from MongoDB week one. A vast majority of you are not aware of what we are talking about. But here we are today. You people are experts in MongoDB. You know what REST API is. You know how to make sure that data goes from the front end to the back end all the way. People are amazing. So thank you for being here today. Uh-huh. Let's see. Now, today we are covering Munstack, now taking React.js that we did in week three, Express that we did in week two, and MongoDB that we did in week one. Putting all of those together, we understand how the architecture of the kind of the stack works from the front end all the way to the database and back. We understand how to do authorization. We understand how to do authentication. We understand how to protect our routes. We understand how to even use third-party tools and libraries and even packages to be able to just do authentication. You see? So all in the effort to make sure that our programming lives or our programming journey becomes so much easier for everybody. So just buckle up. It's not going to be rough, but a bit bumpy. But I believe you guys are going to steer and make sure that we get there. It is called Canon. You see, morning for those who are joining us, wherever you are. Some people are 3 hours behind the timeline. That some people are. I don't think we have people who are ahead of time for us. Yeah, according to the East African time zone, I think right now we are at 10:08, 8 minutes past 10 a.m. Friday, 20th of June, 2025. Now, let's begin the session. I know you guys have so many questions, but a lot of questions have been answered inside the catch-up. Good thing is that if you didn't attend the catch-up, we have the recording, two-part recording. One of them, we started off with Zoom, but actually we digressed so much such that we went beyond time. The catch-up was 3 hours, for those who didn't know. So that's the joy that we have when we go beyond time, just by covering, not just that we are obligated to be here, but just to cover the content in detail. So if you go and watch those sessions, the two-part session, one is in Zoom, another one is in the Google Drive that was recorded via Google Meet, you're going to enjoy the session. But nevertheless, I saved the best for the last, which I'm going to cover today. I hope you're going to get it, but if you're floating, that is normal. You have been floating since MongoDB, but now you're not floating, so you can be able to strike the difference. For those who have joined us in the journey to be Linux people and knowing people in this world as far as programming goes, I believe you've already set up your machine and you're enjoying the experience. So I would love to see you people shine out there. Among us, we have a guest. Let me just promote him. Our own instructor, my colleague. We are in the web development department. Let me find him. It's Safaricom. Okay, let me see. Hmm. Don't know if he has joined. Great. Welcome so much, Instructor Eddie. I believe you can be able to introduce yourself for those people who have forgotten about you, but majorly you're the reason why Manstack has a lot of students, and we are glad for it. So maybe Instructor Eddie, you can just introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I hope and trust you are well. Yeah, so proud to see all of you here in this particular journey. And I wish you all the very best. You have made the right choice. Trust you me, you have made the right choice. So, all the very best. Glad to be here. Back to you, Dedan.
Thank you so much. Like I said, he is the reason why a lot of you are here, if you don't know, because he was able to train you on web development, spiked an interest to you, and here we are. So let us now ride on this train. Now, we've been covering a lot of concepts all the way from week one, and I believe you people have been cumulatively assessing your journey all through because it is very important to track your progress. Yesterday, I was at this place. Today, I'm at this place. I'm able to even track even a footstep. It is very important. We have been covering a lot. And even before I continue, I just want you to remind you that I've been sharing all the instructions via email. For those who have not been getting the email, please don't unsubscribe to my email because when you unsubscribe, the next email is not going to go for you. Like you're not going to get my next email. So it is important to just leave it at that. I've seen a couple of people who have unsubscribed. I think two, but I managed to bring one back. So don't unsubscribe because you're going to miss a lot. For those who are not in WhatsApp, please just reply to my email. I'm going to add you to the WhatsApp community. Within the WhatsApp community, we have peer groups that have been formed by your colleagues. So kindly just request one of the groups and then join. If you're not content with any of the groups, create yours, make sure that it has people, then let them join in. The goal is to make sure that by end of this week, I want by at least Sunday, you people should be starting projects within the peer groups. Like I said, I'll be sharing emails. In the catch-up class, I mentioned very vividly that after week 4, which you are covering today, because after today, you people are now going to be ready to do projects. Instead of waiting to do the final projects, start with the small projects that are going to build the momentum to the big project that you're going to do at the end of the cohort. Now, for every 2 days, I'll be sharing project ideas just around man. But what I talked about is a problem. I'm going to be sharing a problem statement. Then within the problem statement, you guys come up with a project. Come up with a project, then we'll be seeing how we can be able to schedule forums for peer group presentations. You can decide to do it yourself. You can decide to also do it within a project, within a group, your peer group, but it is important to collaborate. That is going to build your confidence because we never know everything. By working within a group setup, we tend to gain that confidence and we learn from each other. You're going to find that Isaac knows this, Angela knows this, I'm here knowing this, so we are sharing among the peers. You see? So it is going to bring you up as a developer. So after every 2 days, I'm going to be sharing problem statement via email, via WhatsApp. Take it. You can do it yourself, but also remember to do it within a peer. Commit them to GitHub, push your code to GitHub, push your code to GitHub. Not do the entire project, then push once. No, push features. I'm going to be showing how you push features. By the time it gets to a point whereby you're doing your final project, it is going to be like one touch. Like right now, the new term in town is not one term, it is one touch. If you are not updated with the syllabus, it is one touch. Now, It is very important for you to do that so that by the time you're doing the final project, it is going to help you. The reason why I'm doing problem statement is because it is going to bring up entrepreneurs, because when I do problem statement, you're going to think around that, formulate a project within Manstack, and then do it. And together the tools that I'm sharing and resources, you're going to get better and better. Don't worry if you start small, even with the to-do list, that's okay. But make sure your fifth project is not a to-do list. It is something like a bit more complex than the to-do list. So you build slowly by slowly, one staircase at a time. By the time you do your final project, it is going to be very easy because you have built up the muscle memory within programming. And without forgetting, please do your assignments. I've been seeing week one, just a number above 600 out of 1100 have done the assignment, which is impressive. Please continue. If you're getting errors in your email that a test has failed, just ignore. The tests that I wrote there were meant to just auto-grade your assignments, but it seems that I overdid it. So please, just forgive me for that. But if you get those issues, just ignore them. Make sure your assignment is reviewed within the peer level. Go and tell your friend, please review my assignment. Have I done it correctly? That's why the peer groups exist. Review them within the peer level. We are not able to review the entire project. We are so many, and we are going to lie to you if you are saying we are going to review your project. So the email that I shared yesterday, there's a section where I said, please make sure that you review them within the peer level. For it is going to be a healthy critic if your peer critiques you on your project positively or negatively. Now, do your assignments week 2, week 3, week 4. If you have access to LMS, I understand that some of you might be having issues on LMS, but until the time it is stable, please just continue coding. When the LMS is much okay for everybody, please just do the assignment. Don't take the excuse that everybody is having the issues. No, not everybody. It is not everybody who is having an issue. Only a few people as per now, which is commendable from our tech team. Please don't take advantage that few people are having the issue, so let me have the issue as well, so that I can have the excuse of not doing the assignment. You're lying to yourself, and it's going to cripple your progress. So kindly just progress on, do the assignments, code. That's how you build your relationship with your keyboard. Now, we were talking about week 4. Week 4 is very important because week 1, 2, and 3, that has been all about learning the basics of Manstack. We understand that in Manstack we have MongoDB Express and React, but the N stands for Node, which is Node.js, which is a runtime environment for everything that we've been doing. For you to be able to run Express, Node environment was there. For you to be able to run React, Node is there. For you to be able to run anything related to JavaScript or TypeScript, Node.js is there. So that's what you have been seeing us using in PM and so on. These are just package managers running on a runtime environment. I understand we have so many runtime environment. That is Node. We have Burn. We have Yarn. We have another one called Dino that has been released just the other day. So all this before, but we are focusing on Node because it has the vast community. It is highly maintained by a lot of developers, so it is easy to navigate even if you get an issue. Now, about Manstack, bringing everything together. This is a very easy concept, and allow me just to jump on a couple of issues as we roll over. House rules apply. So now that house rules apply, you know what I'm going to do. Yeah, it's just disabling the chats so that people can be able to focus in class. If you have a question, just put that on the Q&A. We will be seeing that periodically on how we are faring. Yeah, so if you have a Q&A, do it on the Q&A. I've disabled also raising of the hands. I'm going to be opening forums for that. I need 101% attendance on concentration within the class. Now, when you were talking about Manstack, what comes to mind? Because we have been talking about Manstack a lot. That thing is like within our lips. But do you understand the architecture? Do you know why we use Manstack, really? Do we know how it flows from the front end to the back end and back and forth? Do we really understand how the data is flowing between these stacks? Because we have MERN stack, but as well we have another one called min stack. So min stack comprises of Angular. It is MongoDB, Express, Angular, and Node. We have a lot of stacks that are out there, but do you know exactly why we are using MERN stack compressing of React? So, like I said, MERN stack, MongoDB, Express, React, and JavaScript runtime environment, which is Node. But a couple of reasons why we use MERN stack is uses one language throughout, that is JavaScript, by the way. Because when you go to React, you have JavaScript. When you go to Express, you have JavaScript. Within Express, you can be able to configure your database within JavaScript for MongoDB. You're running on top of a runtime environment for JavaScript. So it is one language all through. Number two, it is easily scalable, fast, and flexible. What I'm talking about, if you compare Express.js, is an exact equivalence of Flask API or Flask framework in Python because it is small, minimalistic, and fast enough. You can be able to combine and do a lot of things within Express easily. I understand we have other backend frameworks like we have Nest.js. I've already told you about Nest.js. It's a backend framework for building anything on the backend, especially on object-oriented programming. So we have a lot of frameworks out there. And for those who don't know, even we have Adonis. For those who don't know, we have Adonis.js. Adonis.js looks like Laravel. Yeah, for those who don't know, Adonis.js looks like Laravel. These are like brothers who are separated during birth. But the architecture, the appearance, and everything, one and the same thing. So Adonis.js is another one. We have so many framework out here that bring in these things about hardness of JavaScript and everything. But Express is the simplest of all, even more than React. So it's just a matter of you knowing what you are using, because you can have a project that utilizes Next.js entirely, the app route of Next.js. So you have a project that utilizes MinStack, another project that utilizes what? Adonis, another project that utilizes ManStack. You have to understand what stack are you picking for your project and why. There's a project that you cannot be able to use for ManStack. Like, for example, you want to build a desktop application that runs on a PC OS like Linux, Windows, and Mac. You cannot use ManStack. You see, you're going to think of something like Electron. When you think about mobile and you want to use JavaScript, you cannot go for ManStack. You go for React Native, then you use it. So you need to understand why. And even in mobile, we have a couple of things that tend to run around here and there. So we really need to understand and piece this information as we move along. Now, the simple architecture of how Express, or we can be able to say ManStack runs on, is basically starting from the front end. We know that from the front end, we have React, and React is coming with Vite. So Vite, Tailwind, and everything JSX. Then we have the HTTP client. The HTTP client is now Axios. This allows us to communicate to the backend, which is Express. So between React and Express, we have something called Axios that we are going to see for those who don't know. Then between Express, which comes with the REST API itself, when you do the routers, but the Express has a method called router that you can be able to configure the REST API, that is post, get, delete, and update, put rather, and all other APIs that we have. Basically, there's just the basic CRUD operations. So REST API comes with that within Express. Between Express and MongoDB, what is the communication channel there? We have something called Mongoose. So Mongoose package enables us to be able to communicate between backend and database. So it is very important for you to understand that. Now, let me give you in an analogy perspective so that you can be able to understand what I'm talking about. So when you have an online shop, for example, Amazon, or you have Jumia, let's use Jumia because it's for Africans. You have Jumia online shop. So React is the shop's website interface, that you are seeing there. But Jumia is just a website. So that is React. Express.js is like the manager handling all the requests. When you put something on the cart, it is being taken, processed, and everything. Then MongoDB is just the storage room, like where they have these stores to make sure that they store this product so that it can be able to be transported here and there. Or you can say just something that has been put inside the inventory for you to just pick. Then we have Node.js, which is just powering the entire thing, the entire process. What is powering this entire online shop? So you have to understand that. Now, this is the architecture, but also you have to understand that we have something called the data flow. You need to understand how data flows from the front end all the way to the back end. I'm going to give you a preview of that. When data starts from React, when data starts from the React, you are entering maybe a name. You are registering inside a page, for example, have that in mind. You are having React component to just put your information there. Axios is there now to take your request, to take now your data. It's going to take your data. We are talking about post request here. You're going to take your data. It's going to pass it to the brother, which is called Express. So let's say cousin, because Axios communicates with the Express routes or the routers in Express to be able to transfer this data. For those who are in the catch-up class, you saw a sneak peek of that, but I'm going to repeat it all the way. The Express router is going to take that to the MongoDB query that has been written in our controller. From the MongoDB query, we are going to pass it as a JSON. We are going to pass as JSON response to make sure that, okay, what you are doing, it has been received on the database. Now let us give you a response that everything is okay. So the JSON response is going to be taken and returned all the way to React in a React state hook. I believe you're understanding the flow now. Now, let us go and do a couple of things here. Is it desktop? So we're talking about week 4. Now, so let us open code. I'll be writing us small sneak peeks because we have already done React, we have already done Express, we have already done MongoDB. So there's nothing that I'm going to say that is new to you. Just trying to picture or to piece information together so that I can be able to understand. Now, I've talked about the data flow, right? Now, let me now give you how exactly it's done when it comes to React and Express. So example, I can come here and say app.jsx, right? So in app.jsx, assuming this is the front end, now we are starting the flow of data. So of course we import something called Axios. Don't worry, I'm going to see how to come around with this. So we import something called Axios from Axios. Now, after importing Axios, we need to create a user. Our goal is to make sure that the user that we are creating goes to the database. So how do you make sure of that? But actually, this one is not JSX. Let us call this one, let us just call it front end. And then call it JS, front end JS. Because we are talking about Axios, this is the place. Front end JS is where the UI meets the backend. So it is the middle point now where everything happens. So when we talk about creating a user, let us create a method called create user. And then we use asynchronous operation just to make sure that we wait for a certain information to go through before proceeding. So asynchronous operation is like promises, but they're not exactly the same. They're different. But asynchronous operation, they wait for certain task to be completed before proceeding. That is the simple analogy that I can give you. So async. So for this asynchronous is going to be something like we can say an arrow function that is going to take the Axios and post it directly to the backend. So let me just show you. So this one is going to React is going to send data, a certain data for the user to the Express.js. So how does it achieve that? So of course takes a method. So this method, we can not a method but object is going to take response. Then we say, because we're talking about asynchronous, so this response that you want to appear, axios.post. For this Axios, the purpose of Axios is to communicate to the backend. So we can now come and establish, we can come here and say base URL, or you can just come here and say API. So const API. So for this const API, what is it exactly? So this is going to be HTTP localhost. We're talking about port. It is normally port 5000 usually. Apart from port 5000, we are talking about an endpoint called API, and specifically we're targeting the user's route, right? So by doing this, I've not done it correctly. This one is supposed to be const. Exactly. Now, I'm going to take API here. I'm going to take API here. Now, this one is going to be passed here. But that's not all. After passing the API, you are communicating to the API called localhost 5000 API users because you are creating a new user. But now within there, what exactly are we doing for this new user? What kind of data are we passing? So for example, the kind of data we are talking about is a name, and the name can be dead. That is the name that I want to be passed on the backend. Now, I want you to understand logic by logic. Forget about the code structure and everything. Just understand the logic. What is the purpose of Axios and what Axios can do? Like I said, data flows from the front end, passes through Axios, which is post. Right now we're using Axios post, right? So data can come all the way. So assuming this is from the React component, it is going to pass through Axios, which is post. Then this one is going to communicate to the Express route. Now, this route that you're talking about, we are going to see how to create it. We are going to see how to create this route called API/users. But this one is the medium of exchange. Now, after that, what you can come and say, let us now just confirm that everything works. So console log, you can do console log res.data. Somebody asked me in the catch-up, what is res.data? Now, I'm going to show you what res.data is and the similarity of that or the counterpart of that in the backend. Now, this one is going to show the created user. Let me just put here, show created user. Sorry. Put it here. This one shows the created user whenever you see something like this. So this one is what is being taken to the component for you now to say, okay, I posted my name to the database. Now it is there. Now I can be able to fetch it and see, okay, this is the data that I posted. But now, this is the front end part. Let us close here. How about the back end part? Because just understand the logic. Right now, if I want to post data, I can just come and use this one inside a component because we have a function here called create user. So whenever I come and create a form, I'm going to put this one inside. So this one is going to be within an input such that whenever I say submit data, whenever I call the submit button, I say click submit button, I'm going to call create user. And then it's going to do its thing. So whenever I invoke this function, everything within the function is going to be performed. Now, let us take a look at what happens on the backend. At the Express, now, we call this backend.js. Now, what happens here, we are saying that we are talking about a router, right? So if you're talking about a router, we have done everything that we have done about, you already know what I told you about creating a route, right? So I come and say app dot, what is this about auto completion, by the way? App dot, what is wrong? Yeah, okay. This thing is okay. For example, come and say we're talking about const express require. Let me just do it how we do it. Require express, right? So how we do normally do it is this way. Then we come and say let us call something called we create an app called const app equals to express, right? So whenever I do that, now I can able to come and say dot use, right? So app.use, but that is for the middleware. But because we are talking about routes, we can come and say app.post. So then I can come here and put API slash users. Are you getting now the point? Then here I'm going to take an asynchronous operation that takes request and response. Now this auto completions, request and response. And then it's going to say cost. These things you have already done. I'm just trying to picture things together so that you can be able to understand the data flow essentially. So this one takes the user. So this user is where MongoDB has created the schema. So the user is the schema from MongoDB. You have to understand that. So user dot create. We say create, and then we come and say maybe text request dot body. You're taking the body, like exactly what comes from the front end. And after that, I'm just trying to picture. Then the rest.json, I'm going to save the data. So if everything goes well, you come and say, let us now save the data called user. Now, this one is now the exact equivalence. So this one sends data back to React. This one sends data back to React. Are you getting now? Now, what you're seeing in line 8 is what happens as well here. So rest.data and rest.json. See, they're exactly the same thing, by the way. This one sends data back to React, and then this one is the equivalence of that shows now the data that has been sent back. Rest.data. This one has to be passed by JSON. So there's a place whereby you have in Express that you have to show that a middleware that allows, for example, you come and say app.use, you come and do a middleware that enables you to actually use JSON. This middleware allows you to actually use this JSON to pass data as JSON from the database. Because the database uses documents. These documents are what? These documents are JSON. These objects are JSON formatted. So for you to be able to actually communicate with the database, you need to actually enable a security measure or a middleware that allows JSON data to be passed. Now, when I talk about passed, it's not passing like pass like this passed. No, I'm talking about pass. This is how you do pass data. That's how you do pass. But let me just give you a rundown explanation really quick as we move along. Now, React sends the data, which in this case is called deaden, the name deaden, to Express. Express then comes and create a MongoDB document. This is the MongoDB document that you're talking about here. It's going to create a MongoDB document. Then the data is returned in JSON to React and updates the UI. So when it comes here, from here, it jumps to here, what you're seeing here now. Then after here, rest JSON, it is being brought back to here. And then from here now you can take it and put it in a state hook so that it can be able to be displayed in a user interface. Are you understanding there? So that is one part that I wanted you people to understand. Flow of data from backend or from front end to database and back. Number two is one important content, or you can say context that I want you to be able to understand. That is the difference between authentication and authorization, what it means, and the real world examples. Now, authentication, we have not done it yet, by the way. Since we started, we have not done it yet. But what is exactly authentication? Now, listen to me. When it comes to authentication, we are talking about verifying the identity. Like, you have registered, yeah, let us now authenticate you. Registering is not authenticating. You register, then you're authenticated when you log in. Yeah, you're now the user who registered now. Tick. For example, when you're coming, you're showing your passport in an airport security. They authenticate that the person that is standing before us is the person who owns this passport and wants to travel. Now you're authenticated. Tick. Let me take a look at the Q&As before I even proceed. So how do I join the group? Just request on the WhatsApp community, any peer group that is there. But for the WhatsApp, just email me via the email that I've been sending to you. Then reply to that email. I'm going to add you to WhatsApp. I registered for Manstack and I never get updates or any email. And kindly email me directly. I'm going to share my email at the end of the lesson. Kindly email me. Is there a distinct difference about TSX? Yeah. Now, between JSX and TSX, one common difference is one is TypeScript, one is JavaScript, but all of them are JavaScript XML. One of them is TypeScript, JSX, and other one is just JSX for JavaScript. That's the main difference. Define Axios again. Now, Axios. Axios is what allows you just definitely to be able to communicate with the backend, with the API, which is Express. That is a nutshell that I can be able to give you. So course come in. So course comes in when you want now to put security measures such that I want certain links to be passing in. So cross origins, I want certain links to be passing. For example, I want this particular link to go through. So that's where you go to here. You go here and say, I want anything from coming from the front end. You come and say app.use. Then you come and say course. So this means that whenever I declare this middleware, I can come and say the certain origins, I want them to be allowed to pass in, not any other origin. Like this is going to prevent hackers even from injecting directly to your code base. You see, directly like hacking you, pretending that they are the front end. So you come and put it here and then say, I want certain origin to be the only one allowed to query my backend. So that is what course means. Now, that is one sector of the Q&A. I'm going to be taking others later. Now, like I said, that is authentication. But what is authorization? Authorization comes with levels of permission. So determining access level that you have or what you can do at a certain level. Give you an example, just in a airport perspective, you're in a plane, right? There are those people who are allowed to sit on the VIP, which is first class and everything, that those people are allowed to sit in the economy class. The person in the economy doesn't have access to the first class lounge. That is now authorization. Who accesses what at a certain level? Now, authentication use cases basically you've seen like sign up, login, JWT, or even Clark authentication and everything, or Google authentication, login using GitHub, login using LinkedIn, everything that you use to log into your account, that is authentication. Now, authorization is whereby, for example, we are using the same LMS with you people, right? You have the student LMS, we have the admin LMS, but the LMS is one and the same thing, only that the admin side, you cannot be able to see the admin unless you have the credentials that checks you as an admin. That's why you see the instructors have access to the admin. But we can also access your student side. But you, as the student, you cannot be able to access ours. So it is admin only side who can be able to even delete. Even on the admin, there are certain levels. We have the super admin who can access everything. We have an admin, let's say an instructor, just a normal instructor who cannot create a module, cannot create an assignment, cannot do this and this. So we are admin, but different level, you can be able to see. So on the same interface, we have the tech lead who can access everything. Then we have an instructor has just been onboarded that cannot even create an assignment. But we are in the same interface, admin dashboard. So it's all about access control based on role. What is your role? Yeah, you see? Now, still speaking on that, that is very important. I'm going to bring it later on inside the code base. Then we can able now to understand, okay, now this is authentication, this is authorization. So for us to be able to understand that, because the next few segments that I want to cover are going to be based on authentication and authorization, just a couple of them. So let us just tune in and make sure that we understand that well. Because after that, I think we can able to just call it a session, then we can end it with the shared CN. Because the main goal is to make sure that you understand route protection, authentication, authorization entirely in a code block. Then in the afternoon, we are going to come back and see how we can be able to apply all of this in a certain project. So right now, we're not going to do projects. I'm just going to mention code snippets that you can be able to lift off later and see how you can be able to apply them. Because if you want to do projects right now, it is going to take us forever. You see, we are going to finish the class at around 1:30 there, and then we have another class at 2 p.m. You remember what happened? I think in is it React what or which class? We stayed so much late and we had very little time to just rest. Now, I've already explained the theoretical part of that. Now, as far as authentication goes, let us start with the first one that a lot of people normally ask, and actually you have also seen that in here. You have seen that in here, something called JWT. You have seen that in here. So we want to see how we can able to actually utilize all of this so that you can able to benefit while building. Okay, so we have other questions here. Let me take them before I jump on that. So why are you using CommonJS require instead of ES model export import backend? Is it compatible or project setup reason? Now, we can use for backend, we can use ES module as much as we want, but CommonJS is the default. It is easier to configure more the front end than the backend. So we just leave the backend as it is for CommonJS, but there's not much reason of why, but you can be able to use ES modules, schema basically. So we are using just CommonJS because it is the default. Now, when it comes to front end, now ES modules work more. Like it is able to work more because for this one, you cannot be able to put, for example, import use state, use effect, and then you come and say require. So it is easier to, front end comes with a lot of packages that have children within them that enables you to actually put them inside another, we say inside an object perspective so that they can be able to move along well. So ES module for front end a lot. Backend you can use ES module if you want to, but the default one is CommonJS. Now, somebody is saying, does it mean that login depends on role? No, login does not depend on role. Login depends on authentication. Authentication. When you talk about role and who accesses what at what level, that is now authorization. Are you authorized to be at this floor? You can go into a certain supermarket and see that staff only. Now, you are not authorized if you're not a staff. That is authorization. You see? That is now authorization. And let us proceed. Now, we have been talking about JWT. JWT, don't confuse JWT for web and JWT for Java. We have Java web tokens and we have JSON web tokens. Very confusing. Don't confuse yourself. Now, JWT authentication is basically whereby you use just email and password and uses tokens, session tokens to authenticate. So not session tokens, but these are tokens that we can be able to even be passed to the backend and you can actually see them. Now, JSON or JWT, JSON web tokens is required, is a secure string that requires the following. Number one, it has to have a encoded user information, which like is a user ID. Like personally, be able to make sure that you are unique, it has to have a user ID. Number two, it is a secure string that is signed with a secret. So you come and say, okay, now this string that I have here, it has to be attached to the secret that I create within an environment variable within the .env. Another thing is it can be able to be sent with every request. So every time you send a request, it generates over and over again a JWT token. Now, why use JWT essentially, by the way? Number one, it is stateless, which means it doesn't use any session at all. Like we are talking about when this happens, now trigger this and this. No, it doesn't work that way. It is stateless, pure stateless. Number two, it is very secure. Okay, not entirely secure, but it is considered very secure. Number three, like it can be decoded by both front end and back end. You can decode your JWT from the UI and also as well in the back end. So you really need to understand all of these measures that are normally put across. Now, let us mimic something or do a certain code base, JWT sign up flow on the backend. So you can say JWT backend sign up. We need to see how, for example, we can be able to come with something like this. So there's a certain package that you can go to npm that you can be able to download or just install called JWT. So come and say require. So this is on the backend. So it is called JSON Web Tokens. So JSON Web Token, after you have imported it, the next thing is that we're still working within here, right? So let me show you how you can be able to enhance something like this that you're seeing here, such that you can be able to take an email and a password. And after signing up, you send a JSON Web Token to authenticate that person. Now, let us just run with that really quick. You see, now this is the problem. I have to come and take this. So let us take that. It is good practice to actually import these things if you're using them. So app.post. Now, within here, we can come and say, we are talking about API user. Is it user or users? Let us see. Users. So within that, we can come and say, okay, of course, this one is an asynchronous operation because it involves sending data to the database and back and forth. So you have to wait at a certain point. So take requests and response. Now, after that, we are taking something like an email and a password. So we are taking user data. So this user data is going to be an object format. So email, taking a password. And remember, these are normally passed on the front end as props. So these are containment of the body. Now, after having something like this, just understand the code snippet by the way, understand the logic behind these codes. If you're not going to run them, just understand that they're correct and just understand how they bring about. You are going to be taking these snippets and applying them within your code base over and over again. Now, we can come and say const. There's a certain tool when you're talking about, I was not to introduce this one, but because I'm used to flowing like this, let me just introduce it. When you talk about password, you don't assume when you enter a password called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that is what exactly goes to the database. Do you think that is what goes? Otherwise, the people who are owning the website that you're logging in will be hacking you directly. If you're entering a password which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that is not what is stored in the database. So what happens? So there's a certain package, it's called bcrypt. So bcrypt enables to encrypt your password. So it hashes your password, essentially, such that whenever you enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you are going to get a very long string that is stored in the database in form of your password. So this is go and study how bcrypt works, but just import it like this. Then you come and hash your password. It is very simple. So today I'm not going to delve deeper into it. I'm just going to give you us just easily, like I'm not going to do the salting and everything. No, this is now for when you want to do security of the next level. We can do something very simple like this one. This is what I'm going to use. Auto generation, assault, and hash. Instead of generating a salt first, then after generating the salt, then you come and hash it. Now we're just going to do the auto. Yeah, so it's going to be very simple. Then to check your password, this is how you do it. Bcrypt compare. You compare the password that you have in the database, then what is being entered via these parameters. So it is very simple. Now, this is what I'm going to use. Have that in mind. So this is how we import it. So you come and say once bcrypt require bcrypt. Is it? Confirm here. So when you talk about hashing, for you to not be able to enter something, this is how you can be able to do it. So you come and say, wait for me to be able to actually hash this thing. Until you have hashed this thing, then you can be able to proceed to the next step. So hash, what are we hashing? The user's password. And we are hashing it to what? When you come and study this, you're going to find out that you can be able to put some limits, like the characters that you want to be within that password. You see, you can limit the characters that you want to be within that password. So go and study how bcrypt works. We have other cryptographic way to hash your password. We have so many. We're just using something that is very common. Yeah, we're using something that is very common, used with a lot of developers. You can see 2.4 million weekly downloads, just weekly downloads. So a lot of people are building with it. So here you can come and say a password with 10 characters, then you can be able to come and say, let us now have the user. So how was the user created? Exactly what we did here, by the way. Exactly what we did here. Except you're going to do it differently. Now, you come and say await, still await, because it's a process that goes beyond. The reason I'm saying await is a process because when you're saying bcrypt, it's going to take it and do it elsewhere. So encryption or hashing of this process is going to be done elsewhere. Then after it's done, it's going to be brought back. So you have to wait. Then, same as this, you are doing something elsewhere. Then when it's done, you come back. So come and say user dot create. Talk about the email, then you talk about the password. So this password, you have to mention that this is a hashed password. Otherwise, if you remove the hash, you're going to get this exact thing in the database. So you see this hashing, very simple. No process, no biggie at all. Now, you're wondering, Nathan, you have talked about JSON Web Tokens. Now, where is it? Where is it? Now, after creating the user, you have now to make sure that you attach a JWT. So before you even proceed, normally in an environment file, no, this is what not I'm talking about. .env. So whenever you are in JW, I've already talked about this secret. Then you can come and put man stack class LP. That can suffice as a secret, by the way. As long as this secret is attached, there's nothing that like you can be able to generate a secret or just put something like this. Very simple. Don't stress about it. How can we generate a secret? Don't worry about that. Now, this is how we do a token authentication. So you come and set code token. So how do you generate a token? So for you to have that token be attached be stored in this variable so that it can be able to be used everywhere, how do you do that? You come and say it is normally jwt.sign So what are you signing? You're signing using a certain string of characters. Come and take the ID from the user. So normally, this user, how do you have the ID? So you come and say user dot underscore ID. Why are you saying underscore ID? Because in MongoDB, that is how IDs are. They normally underscore ID. So the user data, you say the ID that you want for this signing in is the user ID. That is number one, right? But we are not done yet. So number two, in that process, we need to use something called process.env.jwt secret. So that ID of viewers is going to be attached by the secret that we have just created here. And then it's going to it's going to be like bundled together and compiled together using JWT sign. And then after that, you're going to have a JWT. So after having that, that is what you pass to the user. You tell the user now, here is your token. Here is your token. Tell the user now, this is something that is going to be passed to React now. For authentication now. When you register and produce an authentication string, which is a token. After this token is passed to the front end, it can be taken dynamically. You don't need to come and copy and paste. No, taken dynamically and transfer to front end, and then authentication happens, right? So it is very simple. Now, just to run down, you need to make sure that for security measures, you hash your password before saving that to the database. That's why you can see, this one is user, sorry. That's why you can be able to see, here we have the database that is something that saves to the database, and this one, hashing comes before. That's number one. There's another breakdown that you have to understand. In the process, you have been able to create a user document. Another thing is that you are able to generate a JWT using the user ID and the environment secret that we have, which is the JWT secret. So they combine together. In the token, you're not going to see MERN stack, blah, 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 and then you have no. They're normally compiled in a way that you're going to have maybe 30, even 20 to 30 character token. Very long one. Depends on your level of hashing on and everything. And then, of course, we are able to send back the token to the front end. Very simple. This is now JWT. It is very simple. It is normally done on the back end, not in the front end, back end. Now, from here, how you use it is exactly how you use something like this. That's how you do it. Now, let us touch on something which is logging in and validating passwords. How do you log in and how do you validate password? Like I said, I didn't have to mention this, but because we are still in it, let me just mention it. You've seen that I've mentioned something here called password comparison, right? How do you check passwords? How do you compare? Like you load the hash from the password DB that you have from the database, and then you compare with another one. So how do you make sure that the password that I entered when I signed up is exactly the same password that I'm going to use this time around? So how do you make sure of that? We are going to be still in the same case. Let me go back. Let me say this one is called password valid.js. So this is the process of logging in. Even I'm going far by there. I'm going far. Let me just use it here. Because it is logging in and password validation, right? So we have signed up here. This is where we signed up, but here it messed up. No, this one is supposed to be signed up, but then you sign up. Or you can come and say here, users, sign up. Yeah, so we can have something like that. So this is registering, right? So how do you make sure that the token that we were using here, we can able to actually, we are going to reuse this one as well, by the way. So I need you to understand that JWT is not your password for you to keep logging in every now and then. No. Every time you log in or you sign up, a new token is formed. A new token is formed, right? So you need to understand that. But before that, let me see what people are saying here. What, with the bicrypt, don't you have to use salt? No, it is auto. I've already said that it is auto. You can use auto, and you have seen that. So what's the difference between cycrypt and bicrypt when hashing the password? Personally, I have not used cycrypt, script by the way, but I welcome you to educate me on that. It's user created. Thank you for that. These auto completion are killing me. Thank you so much for that, Dennis. Cycrypt. Okay, I don't understand by the way, but I'll allow you to speak on that. Is it required by Yes. You can use what exactly we have here. You can see here, this is exactly what you do. It is not bicrypt.js. Bicrypt.js is just, what do you call, how it is called. Now, another person is talking about, can you please explain more on environment? Now, when you talk about .env, this is where you put your secrets that you don't want them to be spilled. For example, API keys, secrets that you don't want to be available. For example, I'm doing a project, then I've attached my secret to the password for my database. But when I put it out there, people are going to hack me. So for me to be able to use those secrets, I put them in .env and then ignore them when pushing into production and GitHub, such that they only work with me. So they are called environment variables or environment secrets. So in a nutshell, for example, I cannot be able to come and give people this one. It is very simple as you can see, but they can be able to use it. If they can access this one and then they come and access my database, what do you call this? My database user ID. They know how to reverse engineer and get the exact this token and even navigate even to the password and everything. Then I'm hacked. Okay, expires in 1 hour. What is it used for? What is used for long session? For example, when I log in Facebook, I want to be able to log out unless I sign out. Yeah. So those tokens, remember they are not session based essentially, but they're not session based. They are stateless. But you can be able to put timeline within how you want them to expire. So you can put 1 hour, 7 days, 1 month, and so on. That's why you see in other sites whereby you click remember me. That's another way of saying, please, like the next time I come here, please don't disturb me with all of these processes. Now, if doing GWT back, doing, will there be still a backend.js? This is just this backend.js has had a different concept. Frontend.js had a different concept. We are not doing a project. GWT backend. I'm just showing you when I'm doing GWT backend sign up. Let me just change this one to just GWT backend. Just the WT essentially for you to be able to understand. So it's going to contain everything JWT and sign up and logging in and even passwords. Let us proceed. Now, we have done the sign up. Let us now see how to log in and validate our passwords. Remember the password that we entered here? We want to see how to compare that password that we entered all the way to the database and how to actually validate it and even log in. So how do you do that? So we come and say app.post. Now we come and say, talk about API, talk about users, talk about login. Of course, the same process, but they apply. So async, yes. So for logging in, what I'm looking for is, so const user, we are waiting to find. Now, this is why you have to see how it works. So await, what are we waiting? We're waiting for the user that we were there with. So dot, how do you fetch a user that has already been created? So you come and say, find one. Find one. Right now, you're seeing this happening because we don't have mongoose here imported and everything. But it normally autocomplete. So find one. What I'm finding here. So find one. We find by email. So this email is going to be the request of the body, specifically the email. So we are finding one by email. That is our good way because you cannot say by ID essentially, not all the way. So you find the user by ID. After finding that user, you come and say, if this user, if this user returns error 44 or this user is not available essentially. So you come and say, if this user is not available, just return this. Return a response with a status code of 404, which means not found. You can come and say, even attach this message, which is send. What are you sending? User. Error 44 means not found. User not found. Simple. If that user is not a found, because we are fetching, right? Here we are here to fetch. But in the process of fetching, and then we find that this user is not available in the database, we just return error 44. Now, after that, now we can be able to proceed, assuming that we have the user. So what next? So we have to check that the password for this user that we are entering right now is exactly the password that is in the database. So how do you do that? So you come and say is match. You can come and say const is match. So is match. What are we talking about is match? We come and say bcrypt dot compare. So comparing is very simple. It takes two parameters. One is the password that we are entering. Another one is the password that is existing, which is user.password. Just like we said here, user.id. So this user is the main object. But now these ones are the elements within the object. Exactly what we are going to do here. So takes two parameters. So it takes what the user is giving us. User can say request dot body, then dot password. So this is what is coming from the front end, right? And then this is what exists on the database. So compares two things. The thing that we're entering, which is request.body.password, which is coming from the front end of the user that is entering the password, and the password that is already existing. So they have to compare. Now, what if they match? So for example, let us just handle if they don't match. Somebody shared something on WhatsApp about status codes. We have status codes in the category of 400. We have status code in the category of 200, status codes in the category of 500. So you have to understand these status codes. So if the password that we are entering here is not a match, what are we supposed? That's why I'm using negation here. I'm using negation, which means if it doesn't match, we are returning a status code. We are returning a status code of 401. Do you know what status code of 401 is? Go and search it. I'm going to find out. You're sending, which is an invalid password. Yeah. So if it matches, now we can proceed and authenticate. If it matches, we can proceed and authenticate. Kind of say, okay, just copy this entirely. Just copy this because it's one and the same thing. It's one and the same thing because the token, that's how you generate a token. Then you send the token back. Now, to offer an explanation, first of all, we check if the user exists. If it doesn't exist, error 44, that doesn't exist. Number two, we use the bcrypt compare method to verify the hashed password, which you are seeing here, and the password that we are entering. If it doesn't go well, invalid password. Number three, we issue an JWT authentication success, which you are seeing here. Then we are going to store this token in the client. For example, how do you store that in the client side? You can store it in a local storage on a, for it to be remembered. That's why you can see expires in 1 hour. So it is going to stay there in the local storage for 1 hour, then expires. So this is when you send it to the client now. Let me get a few questions. These segments for questions are good. So is JWT middleware? Okay, GWT is not a middleware essentially. I'm going to say the person. Okay, I'm trying to piece out this information to answer you. Okay, it's not entirely a middleware, but at some point it's a middleware. Why? So maybe I can be able to say this. In various web frameworks, it can be handled as a middleware. Why? It is there for authentication. Now, it's a middleware to a certain point, but not entirely, just for authentication. This is the reason why. I've been giving this analogy of security. So when in an airport, for it to be authenticated, and I've also mentioned it here. I've also mentioned it here somewhere in authentication. So authentication is like a security layer. You have to be authenticated. So it is part of the middleware, but not customized like as a middleware, essentially, the way we do it in Express, but it's a middleware. Because you need authentication, which is a security level to authenticate if you are who you say you are or not. Another person is saying, how does one achieve login by restarting with another password after he had forgotten another password from the previous? That is a different case whereby, okay, you send a password reset. So a password reset has to make sure that, okay, you are resetting the password, but first of all, we need to match your email for us to send you a password reset code. So the same thing about coding. Another person is saying, what if the programmer chose to separate those parts in folder? That's okay. Actually, it's just recommended, but you have to separate them and put them in an architectural way such that your, what we call your routes are in one place, controllers are in one place for easier debugging. Since we are fetching the user, aren't we supposed to use get? No, we are not fetching, you are posting. For you to log in, you are posting. Yeah, you're posting, you're not fetching. Fetching is where you are getting the response. Login and register is all about post because you are entering information to go to the database, then in the database they are matched, then you're authenticated, then back. Yesterday, 16 billion password were leaked online. I heard of that story, by the way, on TikTok. In what is being termed as the largest password breach in history. How does this happen? I believe in my password has been breached. I have to change mine now. How does this happen now that we are talking about secure credential? Now, when millions and millions of people use the same kind of login method, for example, the most common one is Google authentication, right? Which is OAuth. For those who don't understand what I'm talking about, it is OAuth. This one is the most common logging in method, which is for Google. So when so many people use that way and it is breached, trust me, a lot of people are going to cry. So yeah, so if it is securing, what I can say is the best security that you can offer for just credentials to log in, it is via blockchain. And this blockchain is not attached to email at all, at all, at all, at all. Yeah, it is not attached to your email. It is whereby you use a lot of steps. We have two-factor authentication. It is not secure as you think. We have multi-factor authentication. Now that is where the game changes. Multi-factor is whereby, okay, you're logging in. I'm accepting you're logging in, but now after logging in, give us the password that has come, the code that is coming through your SMS. After that, give us the biometrics. Now after that, we have sent something on your email. Please, that is multi-factor. You go to lengths to make sure that you're authenticated. Because, for example, the two-factor is not safe. Why? I've one day been able to bypass or hijack a code. So you send a two-factor, then I come and hijack it using a tool that I'm not going to mention. After hijacking it, I'm going to change it middleware. Then I put mine. Then when you enter my code, then I'm in your system. I'm not going to say what kind of process I went through, but I'm just trying to tell you that two-factor is not safe if you are securing something like a bank transfer and everything. What's the use of generating the token while signing up? Okay, somebody is asking what is the use of this token? Now, I've said it that it's a process whereby you send a token to authenticate. It's a process of authentication because anybody can have your password, or your service can be compromised. That's why you keep logging in over and over again. So that's the main reason I can give you for now. Maybe you can digest that question later on and answer it comprehensively. Now, people, we have done GWT. We have seen how it works. Now, let us see how we can use GWT middleware, if that is what is called, to make sure that we keep the routes. Like we make sure that we protect our routes such that so and so should not be able, or somebody who is not logged in cannot be able to access a certain route. Let's say you want to access profile, but you're not logged in. You can use JWT to make sure that it's very possible. Now, since we're talking about middlewares, now let us talk about something here, which we say it is called, let us say, protecting routes using JWT. Let us just call it middleware. Now, I'm going to show you how, and then you're going to see how to use it. Now, let us start with the how. Now, the how is very simple. You come and say just const. This is a function that I'm creating for the middleware. So I'm creating a middleware function that is going to do all of that so that I'm able to reuse it. So of course, we know that middleware takes three parameters, which is request, response, and next. So now that it takes that, okay, it's very simple. Just watch and see. So you come and say const token. Then this token, what we are going to do is we are going to target the header. Then we are going to generate something called a bearer token. So how do you do that? Now let me show you. And you have some people have seen this when they were learning about Postman, API in Postman. Now headers. When you go to Postman, this is exactly what normally see authorization or any other API testing interface. So what we are doing here essentially is trying to create a bearer token. So it is normally, it says split. We split the bearer and the token. So how do you split the bearer and the token? You put a space between. Then you come and say, you put the token should come as the second index. You know, when we talk about indices, we have 0 as the first, 1 as the second. So the token should come after the bearer. Now, in a nutshell, for those people who don't understand, this is what I'm talking about. When you come and see something like bearer, then you have your token here. That is what I'm talking about. So we have a space between here, which is this one, and then the token you're saying should be able to appear as the second index. You're targeting only this. So this one doesn't count, but you have to say bearer. So where does that be applied? You apply that inside the header. Just to give you a sneak peek of what I mean, let me just open my Postman. You're doing well so far. Okay, have I clicked it yet? Okay, yeah. Now, inside your Postman, let me zoom in. Now, when you come, we are in the request. For example, when you come to authorization, let me just put this one down. You come to headers, then this is where you can be able to put it. You put your bearer here. We have something, you see authorization, then you put your value here. It is normally that simple. It's normally that simple. So headers, authorization, then you put your token here. So that token is now what we are putting here, for example. That is the value that you're putting here. So it is very simple for you to be able to understand this thing. Here it is. So you come and switch JWT bearer. You can see how it is being hashed. You put your secret here, then there's methods of hashing. That's why you can be able to see it is going to be very long. So there are so many methods here. So HS256 is the most commonly used. Then you come and put your secret here. When you come and put your secret there, so you can generate the secret or encode it however you want, then you can have the payload. So this is how you can be able to do it. You can see it is the request header, the one that I'm talking about. So request header, then you put your secret and everything. So this one is normally done inside the code base such that when you come here, so it auto generates. Don't worry, we are going to see this in the afternoon during our practical session so that we can be able to understand. I don't want to delve in deeper into it because Postman is not part of our morning session. Now let us proceed. Now after this, you have been seeing me checking things like if it doesn't exist, we go and do this. So we come and say, if this token is not there, what are we supposed to do? So return with the status code of 44. Status code of 44, 41 rather. Then I'm going to say send something like token required. So this is the case whereby the token is not there. So let's take it that the token is there. So we are going to perform a try catch block. Even here you can do a try catch. So for this try catch, we can come and say const. We want to decode this. We want to take the decoded JSON or token because now we have already that here we are able to generate the token. So after generating the token, we want now to decode it to make sure that we attach it to the user's request and make sure that we use it for protection. Such that if you enter, if a wrong token is entered, we are not going to authenticate you. That is the goal. So JWT, we have something called verify, if I'm not wrong. We have another one called verify. Let me find it. Compare sync and everything. But we have another one called verify, which verifies the token that is there and is it valid. Now, come and say token dot verify. So this one takes a couple of parameters, which is token and the secret that we're talking about. Because for you to decode, you need the earlier secret. For you to encode it, this is the encoding part. So you need the secret and a certain ID. For you to decode it, you need the token and that secret for you to decode it so that you can be able to authenticate that user. Just 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. When 2 minus 1 is equals to 1. Simple maths. So you come and say process.env.jwt secret. So that one is the process of decoding. After that, now we attach that to the user's request. We attach user to the request itself. So you come and say request user. Then we attach that one to the decoded. So this is the place whereby you attach the user to the request. After that, because it's a middleware, how do you do it? So we come and say next. Like when you say next, you are done. Everything is okay. Now pass it to the next security layer. So if everything goes bad, what are you supposed to do? Just react with the status code, basically. It's very simple that way. Don't run, just react with the status code because it is within the testing environment. Then you can come and say invalid token, maybe something like that. Okay, yes, token required, but this one is token. You can see for 143. Go and check the status code categories. We have 400 category, 500 category, 200 category. You're going to see we have 300 category, we have 100 category. They are there for a reason. Now, this is a middleware, but how do we use this thing? How do we use this for protection? So this is the how, right? This is the how. But now, the use. Let me put here the how. Now the use. How do you use it? Because you can see this one is not used. So anytime you call this one, you're going to call this one, and then does its thing. So it's like a padlock. This is an entire padlock that you have put in place, such that if you don't have the necessary key to open that door, you're not going to open that padlock rather. So how do you use it? You come and say app.get. For example, I want to go to a certain route, which is maybe say profile. So you come and say API/profile. I want to go here, but I'm not authenticated, so I'm going to put auth. So that is what you're seeing here. So auth is a function that I can able to pass it here. After passing it here, I'm going to just do that. Then I do my normal thing. Request, respond. Just a normal route that we normally do, which is maybe res.send. Like say we are sending a certain information, maybe welcome. Let us do it a bit in a bit unique way, such that you can be able to put backticks because we have the user ID, right? So for us to use it in a very interesting way, we can come and say user welcome user. Then you can come and say let that user have this ID, which is request.user.id. Yeah. So if you are not that particular user, if you're not authenticated, you cannot access this. So this is what we call route protection. We are protecting this route such that if you're not logged in, you cannot access this route at all. So it is that simple. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is all about authentication. But since we are talking about who can access what, as you can see, who can access what? Authenticated. You have to access it to be authenticated for you to access a certain part. And you can see if I hover here, you can see this one is it is request respond next. It's a middleware. It is being attached here. Now, since we are talking about here, the problem that we are having is that you don't want regular users to access admin routes. Since we're talking about who can access what, we don't want regular users to access admin routes. So how do you make sure that only admin can be able to access? If you're entering a role with the role of an admin, how can you make sure that admins only access what they are supposed to access? So how do you make sure of that? So since we're talking about middlewares, so I can come here and come and say auto, it's not authorization or session. It's just like saying organization. Now, since we're talking about that, the problem is we want only admins to access admin routes, not the regular users. So let us implement a certain middleware just to make sure that only the authorized access it, authorized. And come and say authorize, access what is supposed to access. So this one takes one parameter called role. It's called roles because you can have multiple. And then you can come and say, now, because it's a middleware, by the way, it's a middleware. So a middleware can come and say, remember, in JavaScript, you can write a certain logic in like 5 different ways, as long as you achieve what you achieve. So sometimes you're going to see me writing code in a very different way, but you're asking yourself why. Just do it simple, okay? You can do it in the simpler way, but I'm just trying to make sure that the code that I'm writing, they execute faster in the shortest time possible. In data structures algorithm, we call that time complexity. How long does it take for the code execution? And we have another one called space complexity. What kind of space does your code base take? Is it very heavy to execute? That's why for you, I recommended most of you to use PNPM, not NPM, because PNPM tends to use your earlier package. So space complexity, it has to be your code should be very light in terms of storage. Time complexity should be able to execute as the shortest time possible. Now, so we come and say if the roles are not there, if the roles are not included, or if the role that you're entering is not included, we are supposed to give you an access denied. You see that sound? Denied. When you are entering something, like you're denied access. So we come and say if the roles that you're entering, they are not included inside here. So we are saying the roles that you're entering are not including. So where are the roles? So we have a user which has the roles. Maybe we have admin, super admin, technician, student, and so on. If the roles that you're entering here doesn't include all of this that you've mentioned, what are we supposed to do? Because I'm using negation here. So what are we supposed to do? So it is very simple. For this one, I'm just going to tell you, please go home. Yeah, just say return with the response status code of 403. Come and say send. Then for this send, you can come and say, just tell that person access denied, yeah? And then you're done. Because it's a middleware, make sure to take it to the next security layer or take it to the next, allow it to proceed. Because unless you are passed through security, the security personnel has to allow you. Now this one is the middleware. Now, how do we take, let me take this one. Where is it? Now let me take this one and put it here because it is still part of authorization or the authentication. Now imagine this kind of security layer that you're having. We have an authentication security middleware and you have authorization security. So you can come here and say, this one is auth middleware and this one is authorization, let's say authentication. Authentication middleware, authorization middleware. Now imagine this kind of security whereby you have auth and authorize. These two. And then how do you use it? Imagine how you use it. You come and say, imagine you're supposed to be the only admin. So let me do the usual, by the way. I forgot. Let me do the usual. Just copy everything here. And then come here. So having all of this, then how do you use it? So the use. So to use it, I come and say app.get. So you want to fetch the admins only, right? So you come and say API admin only. Let's say we have an route called admin only. So imagine you have to be authenticated, number one. You have to be authenticated, number one. Number two, you have to be authorized. You have to be authorized. Imagine that kind of security layer. But you have to be authorized. We are supposed to give you an authorized if you're in an admin only. So you're supposed to be admin. So if you're an admin, otherwise we can just leave you out. So you come and say res. And then you can come and say, just a normal route, by the way. This is a normal route. You come and say res.send hello admin. You can come and say hello admin. Imagine that kind of security layer, such that for you to access this particular route, you're supposed to be authenticated, number one. Number two, you're supposed to be authorized to enter there. So imagine entering a campus. So at the gate, you're authenticated that you're a student. Okay, enter. But you cannot enter the VC's office if you're not a VC. So you have to be authorized to be a VC for you to enter. So imagine that kind of security layers just via the middlewares. It is very simple. It is very simple because you can see even within the authentication, we have the token. So security within security. So we have the JWT within the authentication, and then we have the role-based. So imagine that kind of security. Now let me take a few. Then I'm going to touch one of the most interesting part that I mentioned in the email, and I don't know if people really took it seriously. I don't know if people took it seriously or what. Now, let me take a few. So, there's a website for intercepting text. I can neither confirm nor deny. uh, no, I'm saying as in why generate tokens in bots sign up. Uh, Trying to understand this question from Isaac. So let me explain token creation on login. On sign up, you understand. Now, tokens are typically generated during login process rather than also sign up. Okay, sign up is not a must, by the way. I've just shown you, but sign up is not a must. But the purpose for which it is involved it is involved to verify credentials. By the way, you bring out a very good argument, Isaac. I think I slipped my mind, but on sign up is not a must. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. On sign up, it is not a must. Yeah, it's not a must to generate. You only generate when you want to verify. You generate when you want to verify. Thank you so much for that. Another thing, let me see. How does one disable autocomplete? I don't know how to disable, but me, I've disabled Copilot. I don't want to use it. But I don't know. I don't know how to disable it. But when you see something happen like that, it means that, for example, right now we have you see, we are in the language mode, which is JavaScript. So anything JavaScript is prompted, you're going to have things about JavaScript. Okay, we have Shadrach saying, put this one on top. Shadrach is saying, what is the difference between RLS and GWT? Now, RLS, which is, maybe you can translate it. You have seen this in Superbase, which is row level security. What is the difference between row level security and JSON Web Tokens? So these two, they serve different purposes, but are often used together in systems like Superbase, like I've mentioned, to provide secure, fine-grained access control to data. Now, row level security is a feature not in MongoDB, but PostgreSQL, which is one of the finest SQL out there, that allows you to define policies that restrict access to something like rows, tables, conditions, on conditions. So these policies, basically what I know is that they're essentially SQL logic attached to the table. For example, you say create policy, maybe the policy is users can view their own profile only on profiles. So that users can view their own profile only on the table profile, that is now a policy that you are giving via the row level security. So it is something that is a subject that we can be able to delve deeper a lot. But as far as MongoDB goes on, we don't do that here. Yeah, you see that person in Wakanda saying, we don't do that here. Yeah. But you can do it in Postgres as far as if you're doing Superbase, do it there. Remind me of query cost. Okay, I don't understand your question. Okay, reminds me, yeah, or reminds me. I believe in the afternoon we'll structure the project by grouping middlewares. Yeah, exactly. Accent. We are going to do that. Now, let me touch on something which I mentioned in the email, but people actually, I think most of you ignored it, or you have never heard of it. It's called Clark. Now, we'll talk about JWT, but do you know about Clark authentication? Do you know about Clark authentication? So just type Clark. You're going to, or clark.com. You're going to be landed in this page. Now, this is where you come up with authentication very fast. For example, right now we're in a hackathon, and I don't want to create sign up. I don't want to create login, reset, profile, and everything. No, I don't want to do that. I just snip, pop, I have Clark. Clark does everything for me. I'm not advertising. I'm just saying something that I've been using for a while. So I believe there's another one called Chakra UI. I believe there's another one called Chakra UI, if I'm not wrong. Is it Chakra is it part of Clark? Authentication or UI, I don't know. I think this one is part of the shared CN and other things, yeah. This is part of that. Let me see. No, 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 no. Chakra is part of what I'm talking about exactly. Chakra is another one. You can use Clark, you can use Chakra. Chakra was there before Clark. This is another way of authenticating yourself, by the way. So just to pass through this is what I'm going to say about Clark. So this one is a modern authentication as a service. So it is authentication as a service. You see, just like we have AI as a service, we have software as a service. Now this one is authentication as a service for modern. It's going to handle all logic, all authentication logic from sign up, login, session, and everything, just everything, sign out and everything. This one is amazing. So just go through this one before the afternoon. I'd actually shared via email. You do have gone through it. Just go through this one. You're going to see how amazing it is, by the way. You're going to be spinning your final project with this one. People are going to be surprised. How do you do that? It's a very powerful thing. So I'm just going to run down, just check the docs. In the docs, I don't know if they have light mode, but okay. Okay, right now they have AI, okay. The last time I left, they didn't have AI, so let us go for React. So you can see, let us use PNPM. Just go and use PNPM. You can create a project from scratch using it. So just do that. This is just initializing of your project. And as you can see, everywhere React nowadays, they use Clark. They use Vite. So Vite latest, they install it, PNPM add, then make sure you follow this step, which is Vite, Clark, publishable key. You have to attach the publishable key. You have to configure this and this. You have to configure the Clark provider. You come and put the headers, which is, you can see, which is sign out. So if you are signed out, you're going to have a sign in button. If you're signed in, you're going to have a user button. So as you can see, what you can access. So this one, it is part of the authorization journey that limits who can access what. So Clark, wait until I spin it in the afternoon. You're going to see it. Okay, we have a light mode here. Wait until I spin it in the afternoon. Then you're going to see how it appears. You're going to be amazed because there's a lot to cover that I cannot do it right now. But we have Clark on, it is normally done on the client side. Then you can be able to attach it to go to the database if you want to. And I've already talked about something called shared CN. So shared CN, Daisy UI, Radix UI, all of these are good for if you want to just spin components that you don't want to create cards that do it manually, you just want to come with them out of the box. So they are really important. I'm confused. Should I be using request? No, it is what I've just written here. Where is it? Yeah, it is this. Because when you say, okay, you can put body here if you want to, but specifically for this one, I'll put it outside, like it is outside. It is a role that is outside, so entirely, it covers the entire body. So when you are admin, you have an accessibility. When you are a normal user, you have a certain accessibility. Now, how can you protect your website from web scraping? I have completely no idea, George. I've not done that before. I don't have all the answers, by the way. So I've seen system using SSDs and SMS like Africa Stocking. Nice. How do you embed them into your application? Okay, personally, I've not done USSD on the UI, but I've just done USSD just to work as a USSD itself. Like I've not attached it to the application, like embedding that, the way you say Olive. Maybe the more research I'll be able to know. Clark is basically a simple and yeah, Clark is one of the best. But Chakra is also there. Don't forget. Querying and pagination. Now, these are now specific topics. Isaac, these are specific topics. that when you build on your project, you can implement them. These are part of algorithms that you can be able to do, by the way. As far as data structures algorithm goes, querying or what you're saying about searching, we have algorithms for that. Pagination, we have algorithms that you can be able to write for that. So these are particular topics that needs a particular sit down that you can be able to research more on that, because that is just entirely, let's say, right now I sit down and say, today we are talking about promises. So you see, these are particular topics that you have to touch on them on a certain particularity that is not general. For us, we are doing general right now, but I understand you. Okay, so noisemakers, where are you? Now let me open forums for noisemakers as the Q&A keeps streaming. Oh, by the way, I'm done with what I was trying to talk about. I believe you people now are good. So today I've not taken too long because, okay, where's this chat? Noisemakers, where are you? People banging the plates on the desk. It is lunchtime, it is lunchtime, it is lunchtime. Also, let me allow people to raise up their hands. Phew, somebody say me, phew. Now let me enable people to raise up their hands. I'm going to be taking few questions and a remark from our fellow instructor at the end of it. Now let us start with Silas. Silas, how are you?
I'm very fine. I'm doing great. But you?
Yes,
Are you
yes, we can.
fine? Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, thank you. Just I would like first to say big thanks to you, the dear colleagues and your instructor and the one who is acting as instructor and you are helping us in this journey. Uh, I have been meeting with some questions when I'm just building these APIs, what you call RESTful, I think. So in these, I have seen that most of developers, they use folders to make stuff, the structure as well. But in this, you see that you are just taking stuff in a mixed way. You see, we are having authorization, we have a backend, front end in the same page. But when we reach on the use utilization of folders, we become stuck on that. You know, we are just dealing with money stack and we need to become a advanced pro. So I needed to know if we would to have, as the session is being talking about the introductory part, then in the afternoon we have the hands-on lab. So as that, I would like to request, if possible, that in morning when you have a session, we deal with the words that we have the common understanding, we take the introductory part. We see what authorization is, what middleware is, and after that, in the afternoon, we implement those middlewares, what middlewares do, how to implement them. Then we start after the correct structure, the overall structure of how the pro stuff is written. Because when we have the morning session, it's it's a word. It's just about the backup, the stuff that makes take the overall introduction to the stuff. Then we are making the practice in the morning, what come in the afternoon. So as that, I would like in the morning to be the introductory part. We see about how the full stack is as an example. Then in the afternoon, we implement those by use of codes. Because when we are just talking about the introduction and we are writing the codes, we become too, we are struggling. You know, in some of us, we don't know what JWT is, but we are just implementing it. So how can I implement JSON without understanding what JSON is? So that's my request. If possible, we may do that. But if it's not possible, we have to keep upgrading. The second, as an encouragement, dear friends, dear colleague, don't never give up. Keep pushing whatever stuff is complicated, but we are reaching the journey. We are reaching the journey. So stay on the stack, keep moving wherever possible, ask for clarification and even support. We are here for you, and everyone here is supporting each of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Silas, for that. Very good input. Now, the reason why we did it different today is because we have done MongoDB aside. We cannot introduce it again. We have done React.js aside. Also you can just mute. Now we have done MongoDB aside, React.js, Express aside. So we cannot introduce the topics again. Remember, they can take so much time. I understand where you're coming from. Now, right now, I've been defining all along the concepts. I define authorization, talk about it, then I give you an example of how it is implemented, just a snippet of how it is implemented. I understand where you're coming from. You want a flow. I understand where you're coming, you want a flow. But now these are concepts that are mixed. They are here and here and here. You have to piece them together. Now, during the afternoon class, you are going to see how they fit in together. You're going to understand now, okay, now this is JWT. This is how it works. I understand where you're coming from. Some people need slides, but you see, if we venture more onwards, it will become a lecture class. And lecture class, normally, the concentration span normally lasts for 30 minutes, and then people start sleeping. I don't want the class to turn to be a lecture class. This is a training session. What I've just given you is just an introductory session for you to see what matches with what. But I understand where you are coming from, well noted. So from next week, we are going to be covering separate concepts. For example, socket IO is something that you have not covered before. So in the morning, you're going to see what you are talking about. Then in the afternoon, full implementation. Same as testing and debugging, DevOps, CI/CD, and then final ones for final project. Thank you so much. Let us see from Asford Mwangi. Talk to us.
Yes, Mr. Denon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, afternoon too. So
Yes.
for me, I didn't get the authorization part. Here you created an authorization middleware,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't get how you connected it to the front end.
Oh, you want the connection from the front end. Now, the connection to the front end runs, you have to put the authorization right here at the middleware. You attach the authorization to protect a certain route. Then that route, you don't need to put it on the front end because that route is already protected all the way to the front end. So it becomes easier because you only create routes on the back end, not on the front end. So when you protect a certain route, on the front end, it's automatically protected.
Okay, thank you. And also, I'm having an issue with my MongoDB compass. When I close it and then restart it again, it doesn't connect to my localhost.
You're using Windows? Okay. But now
Yeah,
the
I'm
person
using Windows.
when the person you're using?
I'm using Windows 11.
The person now who was using Windows just migrated to Ubuntu. Now, Angela, you see now you're losing students. Eh? Not, not to worry. Let us table a session later on. We see how we can help each other.
Okay, thank you.
I need ladies. Where are you ladies? I knew it.
Good morning, Tita. Good morning, everyone. I'm
Morning.
actually joining from my mobile device because I'm still building my house. I'm not done building my house. So right now I'm like a landlady that is homeless, whose house is like 90% done. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's why I had to join with my phone. And I don't know, these home week I've not even like visited the LMS or done anything because I had to back up Then I had lots of issues from installing the unstable version of Ubuntu to having to uninstall it, to having to, go over the process again of installing the stable one. My BIOS lot. I didn't even sleep last night. So please, I hope we're not going to have issues with like right now assignments. I still have 3 and 4. Like and I'm not just gonna do it because I'm not yet perfect. I have to like go over the videos again. And right now I'm still, setting up my Ubuntu. Like it's stable now. All I need to do now is just to install all the programs I'm working with. Yesterday I couldn't have enough time at work to do it, so I did. And today, throughout the weekend, I will just install all the programs, put back my folders that I backed up in a different drive and all that. So I hope we're not gonna, I don't know, receive any is it punishment for delaying for the week 3 and 4 assignments. I just wanted to be on the safer side.
Okay, no problem. That is well noted. The Linux people, I know Windows people want to kill us right now, but no problem. How was the class? Any comments? Any
The
critics?
class is everything. The flow, I love it, even though I was a little bit distracted at work, but the flow and all that. And I'm just looking forward to being able to flow like my tutors someday. That's the class is perfect for me. I don't know about others.
No problem. Let us see people in the afternoon. Let us give another person a chance. Wafula. Cheryl. Am I butchering your name? Charlie. Surely. Okay, she's not there. Oh, you're there.
Yes, I'm here.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
I was just commenting that the class was nice. Thank you for the good work that you're doing.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stace.
Good afternoon, everyone. My
Afternoon.
question is which one is the most stable Linux or Linux? Because I installed Ubuntu version 2.24, something of that sort. Is that okay, or I do the 25 one?
You can do 24, but now 24 normally lasts, version on Ubuntu normally lasts for a year or a year and a half or so. So just go, it is an LTS because just go on their website. It is not part of the class yet, but they cannot allow you to go without the information. Now, when you go to their website, when you see a certain version in under LTS, that means long-term support, which means it is being supported. Let us see. Go for download Ubuntu desktop. Now, when you go there, you're going to find, let me see. Yeah, here it is. Now, you can see 24 is LTS, so it is good. 25 is not LTS. So it is not, for me, I'm using 25, so I know how to navigate around a lot of issues that comes with it, but anything LTS, go for it. So go for LTS 24, long-term
No, that's
support.
the one I have.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, and the class was awesome. Thank you for everything.
Amazing. Now, people using Kali Linux. And Linux now doesn't support coding at all because some of the applications are not supported in Kali Linux anymore. Let me take one more question, then, or let me just allow Instructor Eddie to come in, talk to us, then we can see how we can be able to end the session. Mr. Eddie, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a very amazing session. Thank you so much, Dedan. Yeah, I don't have much to say. From the comments on the chat or from the questions on the Q&A section, yeah, seems to today was a bit of information overload, but don't worry, guys. Yeah, you have to go through this stuff. But my advice to you is just practice as much as possible. Practice as much as possible. And these things get easier with time. They really do get easier with time. As much as you practice, as much as you could get those solutions and just try and solve problems with what you have learned. It really gets easier with time. Yeah, I really don't have much to say. Just to wish you all the best in this journey. Yeah, that's it from me. Thank you. Thank you, Dedan, for the wonderful session.
Thank you so much. We have another session in the afternoon. If you are going to manage, we are going to appreciate. Otherwise, thank you for gracing us with your appearance today. I'm trying to type my email on the chats here. Don't know why it's refusing. But I don't know. Let me type it on the Q&A. Type answer. Don't know why they are refusing. But anyway, thank you for staying in class today, people. Amazing session. I know a lot of people are floating, which is perfectly fine. Remember, I told you floating is constant, but please don't make floating a normal thing to you. Just make sure that the next time you're in class, you're not floating, you're updated with the information. And when you do more research by yourself, remember us, we are here to give you the foundation, the basics, to make sure that you're well conversant with the concepts. But it comes down to you to make sure that in Kenya we say kujituma, or in English you can say you send yourself, or you can say just make sure you are capable of researching by yourself so that you can resolve most of your issues. Without much ado, so I'm sharing the email right now, which I'm struggling right now. I don't know why. Okay, finally. Let me share, but the session is adjourned. See you in the afternoon, people. See you in the afternoon. Bye-bye.